Well, good day, everybody. How is everyone doing on this fine afternoon? I suppose this afternoon, if you're in sort of the this part of the world, we're in Sherwood Park, Alberta, coming to you live. Actually, both of us are coming into you from Sherwood Park, Alberta. I think our guest today is really in the same city or town as that I live in, or and quite a big place actually. We're probably around 80,000 people, almost 100,000 people, but we're the largest hamlet in the world, probably still is classified as a hamlet. But so our guest today is Deborah Vernon. Deb Vernon is a registered psychologist, author, speaker, and business culture consultant. Now, she has been in practice for over 25 years as a clinical psychologist and has helped couples and children and professionals and as well as organizations confront their emotional challenges and find greater success and happiness. Deb will be talking to us today about rebuilding happiness after the COVID lockdown here and with practical tips and insights. Deb will share really strategies for dealing with complex emotions that we've all been facing and during the difficult time that we all are experiencing. So she also will share her book that's been released recently as well, and we'll get into some of the powerful insights from there as well. So with that brief introduction, folks, please help me in welcoming our special guest today, Deb Vernon. Now, Deb, welcome. Welcome, my friend. How are you doing today, all the way from Sherwood Park, Alberta?
Hi, I'm so happy to see you. Actually, I'm happy to see anyone right now. From the lockdown, it's so great to see anyone.
Yeah, yeah, great. Well, thank you for joining us again. I know we chatted a couple months ago, and
Yeah.
perhaps that might have been just before your book was released, and now this is after. Now, I don't know the timing of the book release, but tell us about that a little bit to kind of start off the conversation. You've been writing a book, and it's been released.
Yeah. It's been great. So writing the book is kind of like it's like doing something I've never done before. So there's the writing of the book,
Mm-hmm,
and then there's the whole publishing of it and
mm-hmm,
learning how about the editing process. So I was writing it last time we were speaking. I was actually like in the process of actually writing it, and now
mm-hmm,
I'm in the process of getting it published. And
mm-hmm,
so yeah, it's done. It's
mm-hmm.
getting edited and published, and that's a whole adventure. And you know what? It's great to learn new things. I'm definitely learning new things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great. Well, wonderful. Glad to have you back here and talk more in details about things that may help our viewers now and in the recorded version of this video to kind of just have a better handle on some of the emotions, some of the challenges surrounding COVID here. So now I know you have a sort of a framework as well to share later on. But before we get into all of those sort of specifics and insights and whatnot, tell us for our viewers who may not have seen your first discussion or chat with me, tell us a bit about your background beyond the
Oh,
bio there. Tell us more. Tell us more.
okay.
Who are we speaking to today?
Well, I was a young person, and I just really loved connecting with people. And so when I was really young, people would ask me, "What do you want to do?" And as young as 14, I knew I wanted to be a counselor. So I went to school, and I learned that being warm-hearted was great, but even better was learning the science behind that. And
Hmm.
so as I got older and older, I learned that learning how to help people was even more important than having a soft heart.
Hmm.
And then I went through a bit of a health challenge. I had cancer when I was in my 30s,
Hmm.
and I sort of shifted my name over actually at that time. So I used to be Debbie, and now I'm Deborah or
Yeah.
Deb.
Yeah.
And because I just had a sense of like a life transforming experience. And
Hmm.
so that's actually really helped me in my practice to connect with people and help them get better. The
Yeah.
things that you do to heal from cancer are not that different from the things that make your mind better,
Mm.
interestingly enough.
Yeah. So,
So
in other words, you had decades of helping other people heal, and then, of course, through your own challenge with cancer, you have learned some different perspectives on that as well, which also sort of round out your ability to help others, is what I'm hearing.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. And it's amazing how many things are common, even though the struggles that we go through are, say, different names, but
Hmm.
the actual ways to get better
Hmm.
overlap so many times. And
Yeah.
I found that even when I was writing the book, there's so many things that overlap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing a bit of that. And we'll talk about all of those things throughout the hour and a bit here that we have together today. Maybe, do you want to get right into the sort of the eight step kind of the eight areas that you want to kind of shed light on right away? I know there are eight. What do you call them? Do you call them steps? Do you call them eight aspects, eight areas? What are
Well,
those?
we can just call them 8 keys or
Okay,
eight lessons to
right.
keeping well. And eight's a great number, right?
Yeah.
It's like an infinity symbol.
Oh, is it? I
Okay.
have never thought about eight in that way. Now I see some of your friend has joined here. Sharon
Yeah.
Diane had joined here, and she said, "Hello, good to be listening to this conversation." And we have Lena chiming in as well here, Lena Wood. And so before we get into the book, maybe we start by just sharing the eight kind of tips that you have for our viewers that comes from your own experience and your own training. So what's that first item?
Well, let's think about the eight tips as not so much things that you don't know, but things that you always do have known, but we'll just take a different different angle on them. So we know that I'm not telling you anything you don't know. What I'm telling you is things that you already know and how to put a different spin on it.
Hmm.
Connecting with people is it's the most important thing to enjoying life. It's actually the single most important thing to
Hmm.
getting well. It actually is measurable. So folks who are connected with others, that have strong connections with others, they actually have a 15-year longer life expectancy. It's greater than being a healthy weight. It's greater than being a non-smoker. Having healthy connections is the single most important factor of having long and great longevity and great life. So one of the things we've noticed when we're with other people is that when I'm speaking to you, for example, I see my own thumbnail while I'm watching you. But in
Hmm.
natural conversation, we don't have that. We just speak to the other person. We kind of get lost in talking with them.
Hmm.
And so, even though it's good to connect over social media, boy, we really do miss having the real conversations with people. So, and sometimes when you're in social media, you get the clickbait that comes up, and it changes how you feel about the world.
Yeah.
But I've gained an appreciation for having in-person conversations with people. I've sort
Hmm.
of cultivated an inner circle of friends. They have similar values that I do. And so
Hmm.
we've agreed that we can exchange, close times together. We can exchange hugs and because they have similar values to myself. Not with everybody, but
Hmm.
during COVID lockdown, there's been a small group of people that we've been able to exchange, closeness and affection with. And I think that's important because as the active cases reduce, then you can actually balance your need for mental health along with being careful that you don't pass on infection to others. But being with others is like the most important thing.
Wonderful connections, human connections, and ideally
Yes.
in person as much as possible in a safe way with some really a small close circle and augmenting it with, of course, virtual stuff as well. But the next one, tell us about the next one.
Well, before we move on from that, I want to share something really interesting.
Hmm.
Would you be surprised to learn that being in the same room with somebody actually has measurable effects on the body? Does that
Mm.
make sense to you? So even if you don't know the person, being in
Yeah.
the same room, you can actually measure that the other person being in the same room actually lifts your spirit to be in the same room with someone.
Cool, cool. Well, in sound engineering, I'm a bit of a sound guy in terms of my interest, and we have the microphone. We call it the proximity effect. I'm just kidding, but the idea though is being close proximity with others change your looks like well your psychology and maybe even your chemical makeup as well, perhaps while you're with people versus by yourself in the room.
Yeah, in fact, it's one of the things that they say when you're recovering from some serious illnesses like cancer. They said the more social connection you have, the better your immunity, the better your chances of survival.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Wow.
measurable. And
Yeah.
part of that is, of course, number two is eating together. It's like one of the single most important things we can do. And during the lockdown, we've noticed that people are eating together with their children more. Children are learning to cook. If your child can learn to cook between the ages of, say, when they're little and they're in their teens to
Hmm.
the ages that they're, say, 18 to 23, a decade later, they're more likely to actually cook at home and not be eating from the fast food restaurants, which is incredibly important. And when you're eating together, it's important to show some self-compassion toward yourself. Some people say, oh, well, I do this or I do that. But eating together is incredibly healing and health giving. When you can truly enjoy each bite and you have a self-compassion as you eat,
Mm-hmm.
it gives you a sense of happiness and joy,
Mm-hmm.
and it fills you with life, not a sugar rush.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Eating together. Well, so that's one part of the, what is it, Eat, Pray, and Love movie or book
Yeah,
series, right?
yeah,
So eating.
it's
Well,
true.
there's a reason why, some circles, they talk about, breaking bread together, right? I mean, that's really talking
True.
about the same thing, right? So, yeah, so eating together. The next thing is, I'll show it up here and let me know if that is the correct one. And that would be number
Yeah.
3, of course. Yeah.
Showing kindness. So there's three things that actually rewire the brain, right?
Mm,
We can actually see it within like a 3-month period. It actually rewires the brain. This is one of the three, and it is the most powerful one. So
mm,
kindness actually can rewire your brain. You actually feel like a different person when you show kindness.
mhm,
And people saying, well, in your lockdown, what can you do? Well, interestingly enough, sometimes small, like medium-sized businesses have
mhm,
tried to show kindness to, say, smaller family businesses during the lockdown.
mhm.
I've even in my own life, my landlord, who has a larger business than I do, offered to give my practice and other smaller businesses in our complex a break in the rent, which was really helpful.
Wow.
And other people I've heard in the magazines and different business magazines, there was a company that bought like $20,000 worth of gift certificates from another smaller business for coffee and different refreshments, so that that business would have cash flow during the lockdown.
Mm, nice. Some of your friend out there is just commenting on how amazing some of those actions there. For example, by your landlord with the reducing the rent and things like that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing because I talked to other businesses and they said, my landlord didn't do that. And it's true that the government did give us some help with that, but a lot of it was voluntary.
Hmm.
And when we give out of a sense of abundance, it actually helps us to have a mindset of abundance and not scarcity. Even though we're going through, this COVID time, it changes your mindset, one from, say, not having enough to having enough to give away to others just by doing small little kindnesses.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, sometimes people are connecting with their, neighbors a little
Hmm.
more frequently, even
Hmm.
though it's from a distance.
Hmm.
That can be another sense of kindness.
Yeah. You bet. Wonderful. So kindness really is mostly rooted in the intent, I suppose. If you do something with that intent, then it is kindness. It doesn't matter how big it is, how small it is, what kind of action it is. That's how I see it anyway. If you do it out of that motive and whatnot. So yeah, let's take a look at the next one. Number 4 is reduce.
Well, we're gonna just before we go to number 4, here's an example. So
Uh-huh.
my next door neighbor
Uh-huh.
said to me that she's gonna get her dog groomed, but she noticed that my dog was looking a little long. And she said,
Mm-hmm.
"Do you want to get the dog groomer to come over? Because the dog groomer comes with a trailer." And she was kind to me. She said, "Hey,
Yeah.
would you like to come and put your dog in with my dog so you don't have to remember to book the groomer?"
Mm-hmm.
That's another example of kindness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So showing kindness back again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So wonderful. Thank you. It just reminds me as well, in some extreme cases, I'm going to bring out this phrase that we all have heard. And I use it when I teach negotiation skills. And the phrase goes, one person's junk is another person's treasure, because it's not what you give, it's how the receiver is receiving it in that sense. So you might be giving something that's not a big deal to you, but to that person, it's a lot of value, right? So look at it that way as well. Not
I
just what you're
agree.
giving up per se, but wonderful. So number 4 here, number 4, heading to 8 of these. Number 4.
Well, this is a great example of reducing daily stress, and this is, I guess, what my book was focused on is having a way to, encapsulate how do you reduce stresses and how do you help people. So that's one of the reasons I wrote my book. But let's talk about some of the different things that you can do just now. Um, some of the things you can do to reduce daily stresses is giving yourself a sense of completion. So I've seen people planting gardens, taking their dogs for a walk a few times a day, writing with chalk on the driveway. I've seen moms and their grandmas out chalk painting with their
Hmm.
children, and so you have this great amount of artwork on the sidewalk, and everybody kind of walks by and says, "Wow, isn't that cool? Everybody's working together." I've seen people journaling their thoughts.
Hmm.
Recently, an older woman gave me a beautifully handcrafted journal that was amazing. And not only was it a kindness, but it was also an opportunity for me to take time out of my day just to quietly journal my thoughts.
Hmm.
And finishing home projects. Man, there's so many of our stores out there that have just been cleaned out of like renovation projects. People are completing things that have been laid dormant for a long time. So sometimes doing those low tech things can really be a sense of stress reliever. Even cleaning out a closet can help reduce your stress. It just gives you a sense of completion.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let me go to number five. Number five is go ahead. It
Taking
is.
a break. Yeah, that's right. So, people think, "Wow, I'm so busy. I haven't been so busy since ever." Some people are saying things like, you know, "The lockdown was hard, but I was so busy during the lockdown." Some people were at home a lot and they were, not sure what to do, and other folks were really, really busy. But even if you've been super busy, and even if you had time at home and you feel like you're kind of spinning your wheels,
Hmm.
taking a break is so important. And you're thinking, well, what do I do to take a break? Well, there's something called mindful breathing. So it's specifically a ratio. It's a flipped ratio. So you breathe in, whatever that you breathe in. Let's say you breathe in for the count of four.
Ah.
1, 2, 3, 4. You breathe out for the count of 8. 1, 2, 3,
Hmm.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you do that about 10 times. So if you do it about 10 times, you can count on your fingers. It helps to remember. And within about 10 breaths, your mind will come down out of fight and flight
Hmm.
into rest and digest. It's very effective. Another idea is to give your mind a chance to have a recess. Remember when you were a kid and we used to go out for recess and you get to go play? Well, your mind likes to play too. And it's different than, say, what we would do as adults. The mind does things like just has a sense of theta waves, like, it's a different variety of wave.
Yeah.
And variety is good for everything in life, including your mind. And you can look out a window. A natural landscape with the blues and the greens
Hmm.
is very healing for your mind.
Nice, nice. So taking a break, that's I think, like you said earlier, we all know this, but we just need to be reminded. And when we
Yeah.
hear it from you, various examples and various kind of sentiments in along with that, I'm hoping that some of us will just heed, some of the things that we kind of knew, but not practicing. So taking a break is one. Now, number six is coming on here, and tell us about number six.
Gratitude is something that you do, not something
Hmm.
that you just say.
Hmm.
Um, Gratitude is one of those things. Remember how I said there's three things that rewire the mind: kindness. Then the other one is actually gratitude, right? Not just doing kind things, but actually being grateful and saying that you're grateful. So you would think, well, how does gratitude help? Like, what if I'm going through something really hard? Like, what if I'm really ill? You know, gratitude is actually really helpful in that situation too.
Mm.
Gratitude actually rewires your mind and actually makes you better and a different person.
Mm.
And people say, well, I have nothing to be grateful for. I'm like, well, the fact that you can say that out loud is something. So you can
Mm.
start with something. It also is it's a point to start with in terms of starting with practicing self-compassion.
Mhm.
And not just not just being grateful for, I'm grateful for everything. That's not really gratitude. But we can start with just saying thanks before we eat. Lots of people do this in different cultures around the world. Just saying thanks before you eat, not just for the food, but
Mhm,
also the people who made it,
mhm,
and the people who grew it,
mhm,
and the people that you're sharing it with,
mhm.
and the fact that you can eat it. That's not a small thing. Um,
Yes, I know. Well, I think all of us know of either ourselves or people who we know, even in our families or friends, who are at a point where eating is a luxury. Like you can't really
yeah,
swallow or something like that.
yeah,
Health in some cases become a point where some of the things that we take for granted become very precious to those people, right? So,
sure true.
abs-
And and being able to be thankful in a specific way and saying exactly what that person's done for you and how it's made a difference,
mhm.
that actually makes the gratitude, it grows that connection between you and that other person. That's back to number one, which is connections between people.
You bet. Who doesn't like to be appreciated?
Yeah.
Right? Who doesn't like to be appreciated? So that's great. Gratitude. Tell us about the next one.
That would be less is more.
Yes.
Yeah. I have noticed so much in our own city, which is not that very polluted, but like the gray brown haze is down,
Yeah.
and that's because we're not operating all of our machinery. But even individually in our lives, when we have less stuff, we're actually happier.
Mm,
I remember being in Mexico and driving around with the taxi driver, and he said to me, I used to have, this much money, and now I have this much money, way more
mhm,
money. And he said, way more money. And he said, I was happier when I had less.
mm,
And this is coming from a man who was driving us around in a taxi in Mexico. But I think importantly, specifically for our listeners, would be that the idea that if we had more, then we would be happier. But it actually, research shows, and we
mhm,
actually do this in the research. So we we gave people something good, in like they're usually undergraduates, right? So we'll
mhm,
give them credit for something and that they don't have to do too much. And
mhm,
if they're able to have more time together and connect more, they're actually happier with that than they are with getting more.
mhm,
So if you consume less, you're happier
mhm,
than if you have more.
mhm. Yeah. Now, some of the comments coming in from our friends here. Lena said, small acts of kindness are so important. Even simple things like smiling when walking past someone or outside, or so necessary, those actions. And smiles are contagious as well. So in a good way.
That's so true.
Is the what's the called the antidote of
I've noticed that during COVID,
mhm.
when people are walking past each other in my neighborhood, they're smiling more. Even though they're farther away,
Yeah, yeah.
they're smiling more. And that's, I think, one of the things about rebuilding, happiness after COVID is, even though we're farther away, and people are saying hi more.
Yeah,
Hi, hi,
yeah,
great day, isn't it? Yeah, no
yeah.
matter what, they'll just share a kind greeting. That's so
It,
true.
it's probably the heightened empathy based on when you are in a particular situation, you're more likely to empathize with that. And so we're all in somewhat of an impacted position here with COVID in various ways. And I think we're more likely to be mindful of that, I think.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there may be some silver linings out of this COVID thing.
I think there's lots of them, actually.
I
Yeah, I
agree.
agree.
I agree. So the last one here, 8 of 8. Drum roll. We're having it showed on screen
8 of
here.
8.
8 of 8. There you
Go outside.
go.
Oh, yes. I've been saying this to people many times. They said, "Oh, I can't get myself to the gym sometime." I said, "Just go outside." And they're like, "Oh, but I'd rather go to the gym." Well, now you can't. Now you haven't been able to go to the gym for the past 3 months.
Hmm.
And being outside is better for us.
Hmm.
There's something about being connected to the earth that's actually good for our bodies. It's
Hmm.
good for our minds. It's good for our bodies. It's good for our circadian rhythms to get the natural light into our
Hmm.
eyesight.
Hmm.
And it's good to have the colors of nature in our eyes, even if it's a cloudy day. People say, "Oh, it's a cloudy day, I don't feel like going outside." Even if it's a cloudy day, it's good to be outside. And people are
Hmm.
doing all kinds of things, more like
Oh,
gardening and being
when I was
outside.
growing up in Vietnam and it rains all the time, and there'd be this phenomenon where we would we actually have a name for it. Is actually, we call it rain. Taking a shower in the rain, basically, is what it is. So us kids would run around and just be really excited and happy, just having a lot of fun in the rain. So rain, it was something that we were looking forward to. So we actually play in the rain. That was the culture there. And let me ask you about this, though. You talked about being connected to the earth and the ground and whatnot. Is there any sort of evidence that if you walk outside, on the grass, barefoot,
Yes.
that would be a
Yes.
really powerful
Yes.
connection?
Yes, it's called geopathic stress
Mm-hmm.
and non-geopathic stress. And actually, that's a very good point. And maybe later in another visit conversation, you and I have kind of a talk. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a specific brain state or brain wave that your brain likes. It's
Mm-hmm.
about 10 or 11,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the approximate hertz level that when you walk on the grass or walk in the sand or walk in the dirt, that the earth actually vibrates at. Because there's always electricity striking the earth's crust at some point around the earth all the time, and the earth's crust doesn't begin and end where like cities do, or provinces. It's a one complete skin. So
Mm-hmm.
when you walk outside, you're being connected to that electromagnetic frequency, and it is specifically a area of research. And so the answer is yes, and that's because it's your brain's favorite flavor, which is number 10 or 11 actually.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good for you, and it's good if you're in bare feet, and that's why a lot of people from Aboriginal cultures walk around in leather skinned or
Mm-hmm.
natural skinned
Mm-hmm.
things on their feet,
Mm-hmm.
and they get the same benefit from that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Wonderful. So as my socks starts to have holes in them, maybe I should just get rid of
Go
them and
outside.
go outside. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing the wonderful 8 there. For our viewers, maybe if you can just literally just list them again in fast successions. So what were they
Oh,
again?
sure. Be connected, eat together, show kindness. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm gonna look here.
yeah.
Yeah, and then number 4 is reduce your daily stresses.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then 5 is take a break,
Mm-hmm.
even a micro break, even 1 to 2 minutes. And the next is showing gratitude. That means doing something. And number 7 is less is more. And number 8 is go outside.
Go outside. Wonderful. Not any sort of earth-shattering new things, but if we, I have this joke that I tell people when I teach at university and colleges and corporate training. I say, if you're making, let's say, if you're making chili, and you say, but I don't have beans. I'm going to substitute something else instead. But I don't have water, so I'm going to do something else instead. But I don't have spices, so I'm going to use, fine. Eventually you make some good food or whatever, but it's not chili. So if you want the ingredients, right, the more of these ingredients you have, the more likely you're going to have a better life.
Yeah.
It's not anything, magical. It's just like, are we hitting 8 out of 8 or 1 out of 8, right?
Those top 3, by the way, we go outside and be active, show kindness, and be grateful. That's the top 3. So if you're gonna keep 3 in your head, move, be kind, show gratitude.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for recapping that for us. And there continues to be comments from our viewers here. So let me just display some of them here. You see, Lena made a comment there again. You can probably see that on the screen. If you can, I will just have you kind of ponder that. And then Sharon also chimed in here, being specific in the way we communicate. Yeah, absolutely. So So tell us about this book. Now, thank you for sharing, the 8 items there, which, I've always known that 3 were special, as, 3, a list of 3. A list of 10 is, pretty common. A list of 7 is very powerful from my quality management teaching that I do and whatnot. But 8, you said 8 is a symbol of infinity. I have never thought about that
Yeah,
way.
you got when you go upside down, you got the 8
Yeah.
on that side.
Of course. Yeah. All right. So tell us about this book. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the book cover and you tell a bit about it, and we're going to kind of get into it a little bit. So here we go. Tell us, when did you start writing it, and all that stuff, background.
Well, I'm going to take you back a little bit in my history a bit.
You bet.
I've been working with children for a long, long time, like
Hmm.
3 decades now,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of children's books out there for feelings with visual pictures, right? And so there's different like art images that artists will make for children with different pictures and how they feel. But
Hmm.
when I went to look for a picture book for adults, for example, for images like, shame after trauma, or let's say insomnia, or feeling guilty after, doing something that you feel really bad about, like a sense of guilt. There was no visual picture books out there for adult emotions, or emotions that you really wouldn't read to a child. It's not that they're specifically adult emotions. It's just that they're not something you'd read to your preschooler. And so I thought, you know what? There's got to be something. So I kept looking, and there wasn't anything. So I created this book to fulfill that need, and it's made for folks. And so my first version of this book, I did just illustrations. I had an artist just do illustrations with me, and I showed it to my clients, and they said, "Man, this is powerful." Each person, male or female, found at least one picture that deeply moved them and spoke to them. And so I created a picture book that had not only the pictures, but also a word cloud that goes
Hmm.
with the picture. So it's a little bit like a recipe book, like a book that you would use for, say, cooking something. So you
Like
think,
chili.
yeah, like that. Exactly. So you look at different chili pictures, right? You look at them, you're like, oh, I don't like that picture, and I don't like this. I want something a little more different. And you look at the ingredients that go into it, and then there's a description that helps you understand how it's put together. This book is very much like that. So there's an art picture,
Hmm.
then there is a word cloud that helps you describe the emotion that it's showing, and then there's a write up. That's right. That's the word picture. That's the word cloud. Then there's a write up that goes along with it, and it helps you to distill down what the things that, when you feel these emotions, what sort of things are going to help you recover and feel better. And it's very short. It's like about maybe 2 pages to 5 pages. Because a lot of people, when I send them away with instructions after I talk with them, they look at me kind of glazed over, and they say, I have to read that whole book that you gave me. And I'm like, well, it's a great book. But I know they're not going to do it. So, but if I just give them 2 or 3 pages, they might do that. This book is also meant to be torn apart. So
Mm.
so if you take a picture, like an art image, or let's say a word cloud, and you say, put it up inside your cupboard,
Hmm.
and you think, well, these are the emotions that I feel. This is what I want to feel. These are the good feelings. And if I learn to give them away and speak them to other people, then I'll actually have more later. So it's not only a book to like just read and have there, but it's also a book if you put it up when you're brushing your teeth, it'll remind you those things to do. Yeah, because it's very short and very condensed, kind of like an extract.
That is awesome. May I just highlight the fact or underscore the fact that you, as an author who labor over the intricacy of a book that basically give to the world your knowledge and wisdom that you gain over the decades and whatnot, actually created so it can be ripped apart. And not many authors would actually design the book to be ripped apart, my friend.
Well, I've read another book like that, actually. It was written for couples. It's a book on sexual intimacy, and it's a book meant to be ripped apart. It is the best book on how to build intimacy with couples, and it's meant to be ripped apart.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I have to give Laura Korn credit, because I got the idea from her, and I love her stuff. And in fact, it's not even in print anymore. To find her stuff is tricky,
Mhm.
but I like it for that reason, because when you take it out of the book, you can actually post it up, and you actually feel more ownership of it, because
Yeah.
you can actually use it.
It's more like a workbook kind of
Yeah,
concept rather than a novel.
yeah,
It's a workbook rather than a
yeah,
novel, right?
yeah.
Wonderful. Uh, that's very innovative and exciting, and thank you for sharing that. And when we think about that, so the words, so this is sort of the more detailed unpacking of the word cloud. So you got three components. You got the word cloud thing, and then you got a picture or images, and then you got the descriptive text here, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the word cloud is it's it's a compilation of words. There's a couple of that are sort of featured more prominently, but the couple of words, because I'm going to ask people, hey, how are you feeling? Usually it's bad, sad, mad, sad, glad, or pissed off, and that's it. It's not like it's just that simple. But if people can learn to express what they're feeling, then they actually feel a sense of relief, and instead of it circulating in their minds over and over again, they actually feel a sense of it's now off their chest, and it actually feels like it's going somewhere. So the word cloud is actually, it's kind of the idea of, when you buy a cake mix and you add
Mm,
sugar, you add sort of water and eggs. They
mhm.
learned early back in the 50s that if you just add water to a cake mix, people don't feel enough ownership and they don't really enjoy making the cake. So if you make people feel like they've contributed and it's partly them, and you
Mhm.
don't have to do too much, but if you add oil and water and eggs, and then you do have a sense of ownership. So that's what the word cloud is. It's sort of, here's something that you can kind of make your own, but it's almost made for you,
Yeah.
and give it away, and then you feel ownership of it.
Yeah,
And
kind of like karaoke.
yes, exactly like karaoke. Exactly
I'll-
like
I
karaoke.
do it my way, but with a backing track. All right. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you for giving us a quick introduction of this. Now, I didn't ask before, but do you happen to have the book nearby that you can grab, that you can show up to the camera? Or
All the best I can do is what you're doing there. Is yeah, is
okay,
that. Yeah,
there
that's the
you
best
go.
I can do.
So there it is, and let's just see it again here. Is a picture book of emotions, right?
That's right.
And wonderful picture books. So where can folks get this? Is it sort of everywhere, or is it
Yeah,
somewhat?
it will be available as an ebook. It'll be available for print, so you can get
Hmm.
it in print.
Hmm.
It'll be available later
Hmm.
as an audiobook. I'm going to voice over the book so that you can just have it play, and it'll play on your phone or your tablet. And if you want to print off a page from it and
Hmm.
post it up, then you can.
Hmm. Wonderful. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that, and looking forward to hearing more about this book and seeing it out there. I see some of our viewers keep on commenting here. And by the way, thank you for participating, folks. We got Sharon, we got Lena, we got others here commenting. But she talked about yes, the book is very engaging and can be. So, Sharon, I assume you have seen the book or you have read the
She
book. Looks
can't.
like, yeah.
Yeah, she helped me like read through it
Uh-huh.
actually. She's
Wonderful.
really helpful, and she's an English teacher,
Hmm.
so she helped me read through it and picked out some of the commas and the apostrophes that needed to be improved.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Jessica's read the book too,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and she helped me with the word clouds.
Wonderful. You got some fans out there and you got some collaborators out there, my friend. So Sharon also chimed in there.
Yeah, no, Sharon's right. Now, I didn't mention this, but I have it in a smaller format, in a booklet format, and so now the booklet is sort of like a giveaway, so it's like a very small book version of the book.
Hmm.
So some folks will be like, well, I don't really know what that's like, I'm not sure if I would really enjoy that, so I've made a small version of the book as a
Mm,
giveaway so that people can just take a look and see what it feels like, and if they like
right.
it, they can get the bigger version.
So it's more than a trailer, but it would be okay. How many pages roughly is that, if I can
Okay, so
imagine?
the book is about 150,
Okay.
and
Yep.
the booklet is about say 30.
Okay. So still a sizable 30 is still a sizable chunk to
Yeah.
work through. That's wonderful.
It's not all writing though. Most of it's like the images and the word clouds, right?
You bet. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, and best wishes with having it reach as many people as possible, benefiting them in the way that
Yeah.
you intended, the way that you hope, and in some cases the way you didn't even intend. When we create something, sometimes it's used in ways that we could not even imagine, right?
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping to be amazingly surprised, and that people will say, "Wow, I didn't even think about this." Actually, somebody said to me this past month, they said, "I'm really looking forward to sharing this with my probation officer," and and some of the warden back where I came from, because he
Mhm.
had just been released, and so I thought that was pretty nice of him.
Hmm. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing. First of all, the eight tips for kind of living a good life, especially through the difficult time of COVID here, and certainly beyond COVID. And then now a bit of a review or introduction of the book. Tell us, in all of the work that you've done, now you're doing a bit more kind of training and speaking now in the last number of years compared to perhaps before you were quite focused on counseling and whatnot. Tell us about that transition and tell us how that play out in the next few years. If you can just have your vision come true the way you like it to be, how does that play out? What's that
Well,
picture? What's that? What do those pictures look like? Give us a word cloud.
I'm sure glad that you asked me about that. I see myself as being somebody. I'm walking along the seashore and I'm throwing the starfish back in the sea. But
Hmm.
I feel like, boy, I could sure do a lot better if I could just throw a whole box of starfish back in the sea at one time rather
Yes.
than one at a time. So that's what I decided to do a couple years ago is look at more of a group approach to equipping people and doing it in a way that's going to help corporations, because people a lot of times derive their meaning and their worth and just a lot of their enjoyment in life from what they do. It's one of the things that one of the Chick Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I love saying his name. He talked about having a sense of flow, right? And so if you can get people into flow with their mind and they just absolutely love what they do, and it doesn't matter what you do, you think, oh, that's when you're getting into flow when you have an amazing job like Dune, right? If you get
Mm.
to follow your dream. But people can be in flow if they're hairstylists or janitors or whatever they're doing. So my job, I guess, is when I'm working with corporations, is to help the people come together in a state of flow in their mind and really enjoy life, and not just enjoy the paycheck, but also enjoy the whole process, connect more um, closely with each other and feel engagement. And then you see things happen that way. Like, actually, I was reading in history how in the innovation in different parts of our culture, like the software innovation area, happened when people like Bell Labs got together and they had different people from different backgrounds kind of all congregating in the cafeteria. That's how different innovations happened, like the silicon chip and all those types of things. So great things can be accomplished, as well as great profit, as well as great enjoyment. It's amazing all around.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I want to get into, is helping that whole process, from the talking to the follow-up to the consulting, the whole
In
thing.
other words, you are scaling it up. You're scaling it up.
I am.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am. I want to reach out to corporations and help them to feel as engaged about their employees, and as engaged about their work and what they're creating, as much as their profitability, because
Yeah.
what we're doing in life is not just numbers. It's about enjoyment, because there's something amazing that we're trying to actually do.
I do want to underscore what I heard from your conversation just now, and that was you see corporations and companies and organizations as being very important to our society. Now, there are people out
Yes.
there who sees those corporations and organizations as being kind of almost like the opposite of our personal lives. Somehow they take away our personal lives. What I'm hearing you say is that you actually see them as a key part of our personal lives. I mean, we spend so much time working in organizations,
It's true.
love it or hate it. And
It's
so if we
true.
can actually just improve that experience for everybody, that's a great way to scale up your impact through, kind of working through organizations. And I think I heard you said as well that organizations, not just the paychecks that we receive from them, but could actually improve our personal lives by the way they have us engaged there, right? Is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so important, like you just said, that corporations are not just, a way to earn an income. They're not just,
Mm,
a separate from our lives. They're really part and integral of our lives. And embracing that and enjoying that, there's sort of three keys that I would. There's another three, right? But these three keys are the things that employees really need to feel engaged: are autonomy, complexity, and a sense of a relationship between what they do and how it actually gets received, and it actually makes a difference. So, and it doesn't have anything to do with money at all.
mhm.
I can't even remember the last time I looked at my T4s and learned about what it was I made this past year. I really couldn't tell you what it
Hmm.
was, but I know I know the people that I worked with, and I
Hmm.
know what things I actually got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's money is one of those things where if you got enough to do what you need to do, then it becomes sort of in the background. It's if you don't have enough money to pay for the food that you're gonna need to keep yourself from going hungry, then obviously that's a real problem. If you don't have enough money to pay for your rent, so you're going to have to live in the street. Clearly, that's a problem. But beyond the basic necessities and whatnot, money typically is not as kind of powerful at giving you a sort of a sustained happiness in the long run. I've learned early on that we can be very happy with very little money. You know a bit about my story of having born and raised in Vietnam during war-torn country. It was very poor and very lack of freedom and things like that. But I was happy. I was happy.
Yeah.
I was living in 2 refugee camps and nothing but our shirt on our back, and the best food that we could ever dream of is spam. And but I was happy. So I learned early on that happiness and comfort slash prosperity are quite different. They
Very
can
different.
feed into one another, but they don't have to be exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's actually a U-shaped curve, right?
Absolutely.
It's a U-shaped curve. So
Yeah.
you need to have enough to be able to feed yourself and feed your children
Yeah.
and shelter them.
Hmm.
But then after that, it goes back up again. So
Yeah.
it's very difficult to help your children learn values that make you feel good about yourself when you can bury them in stuff, right? When you
Yeah.
can just like, put a whole bunch of stuff on them and just bury them in stuff. How do you teach them, values like hard work and
Yeah. Uh,
perseverance?
a great example I can cite is how in any one of our career we graduate from university or finish high school, whatever, and we go to get our job, and then we get raises and we're doing well, and we're happy about that. We're able to buy the vehicle that we need for transportation and autonomy and whatnot, so we're happy about that. And then we sort of work up the quote unquote corporate ladder where we get maybe higher pay along the way. One of the phenomenon that I'm aware of is the higher the limits you have, the more trouble you be in when you break it, and fewer people can
Yeah.
help you. Fewer people can
Yeah.
help you, right? So
Yeah.
if I only have $1,000 a month to sort of live, when I need a bit of extra, a lot of people could help me, right? But if I need $20,000 a month to live, when I get into trouble and I'm over that limit, fewer people can help me. If I
So
need
true.
$200,000 to maintain my life per month, when I over that limit, even fewer people can help me. So the more modest we have, this I always talk about how somebody gets a raise and then they go and buy a nicer car, a fancier car. Well, now they have more maintenance
Yep.
liability, more
Yep.
whatever, right? So they're actually increasing their liability by buying all of these things that require it, right? So maybe the stress actually goes up.
It actually does. It actually does. You know, I remember reading this amazing article where this couple was on the brink of divorce and they didn't know what to do, and they looked at each other and they said, "We just don't want our children to go through a situation of, two families." And they both had these amazing careers. So what they did was they packed up their whole lives,
Hmm.
and I can't even believe this, but they packed up their whole lives and they went to another country so they would rely on each other,
Hmm.
and they just worked things out by focusing on having less and spending more time together.
Hmm.
And then they wrote a book about it, which was one of the most amazing books that's moved my life. It was great. It was great.
Hmm. Well, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to pull up your website, and I'm going to, for those viewers who have not seen it in the sort of previous conversation we had, just tell us a little bit about where you're heading with this. What kind of services you provide going forward, and it's just a bit on your website. So go ahead and talk about it while I pull it up here, Deb.
Sure. So I do workshops and seminars for
Hmm.
businesses. I also offer consulting services. Sometimes when after I do a workshop and a bit of a consulting service, there's, in the executives maybe have a question about how to handle a specific, situation that's come up within their employees. So we do a bit of consulting afterward,
Hmm.
and then I do a follow-up. So I help with having sort of engagement sessions so that the people in the workshop have activities that they can do, and then I follow up with them next time. So there's different types of workshops that have. So for example, there's a sleep workshop, there's a happiness workshop, there's a motivation workshop, and there's a relationship workshop,
Hmm.
and they sort of like lead into each other. And then those there's different chapters within those workshops. So some employers say, well, we don't have enough time to do like a half a day workshop, but we
Hmm.
could do, say, lunch and learn. So we'll
Hmm.
do, couple of times we do a couple of different sessions with a lunch and learn, and then
Hmm.
I follow it back up again, and so then we move into the next chapter. Whatever the corporations values are in terms of like getting the most out of their employees. Some employees are having some difficulty with absenteeism, or maybe having their employees having difficulties at work, having some sort of bit of conflict. So that's some of the things that I've worked with, and I've noticed that after I come in and the corporations have had these workshops, they've said to me, we had certain folks that were difficult, and now those things are resolved. Either the person uh, finds a different way to interact with them, the
Hmm.
other employees, or actually they find another job and they go to another employer, and the employer actually finds a new person. So it creates a sense of, this is how we're going to do business. So get on board. Let's get going,
Yeah,
and
clarity, clarity. Yeah.
things get resolved. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. Now you have brain games or
yeah,
kind of games that you use to kind
yeah.
of play as well as drive home the point. Tell us about a couple of those that you might employ.
So that's a cool thing. I think we should talk about that in our next conversation more thoroughly. It's called brain entrainment.
Hmm.
There's a couple of different devices that I use, and then I encourage my employers that I work with to at least have one or two on their at their corporate headquarters for the people to use during breaks.
Hmm.
And they can actually be used to train the mind. Remember how I said the mind has that favorite number, about 10? Well,
Hmm.
that's what these entrainment devices will actually help your mind to get set at. And I have a friend named Tony, and
Hmm.
he was a little bit skeptical about them at first, and
Hmm.
then later he came to me and he said, "Wow, like it totally does work." And I'm like, "Yeah, it does." He's like, "And it's fast. It's like within a few minutes you can feel your mind changing." I'm like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, you can. You can feel it happening."
Hmm.
So it reduces, it's different settings for it, but it can reduce your sense of anxiety. It can improve your focus. There's a sleep setting, so you can use it for sleep.
Hmm.
And there's different devices. So you've got two devices there. You've got one that was for flashing lights. That's a
Hmm.
really helpful one. And there's another one that you have that was just clipping on the ears. That's a
Hmm.
really helpful one for people to just use while they're, working. You can work at a desk with that other one, that ear clip. See, there's an ear clip there.
Yeah.
You can put that on your ears and then just work at a desk, and it won't interfere with your desk work at all.
Right, right. So in other words, our environments do affect our psychology,
They
our
do.
physiology, and whatnot. And whether it's sound or whether it's sight, if we can just be more mindful of what we are giving our system in terms of stimulus or input, right?
Yes, and the devices actually lift your mind up. Like, can you imagine like sort of being sort of just lifted, your mind just being lifted up and set at
Hmm.
its favorite, level? That's
Hmm.
what the device does. It trains your mind. So the more you use the device, the
Hmm.
stronger your own mind becomes and the
Hmm.
less you need it.
Yeah.
So people will use it for a couple of months. I had my son use it when he was younger, and the
Hmm.
teacher said to me, "Oh my goodness, what did you do? Your
Hmm.
son's amazing. What did you do?" And I'm like, "He's been using brain entrainment."
Hmm. Hmm.
And it was a substantial change, and it stayed for many, many, many months. It's a
Yeah.
long-term change.
We talk a whole lot about training our muscles and our body
Yeah.
and our biceps and triceps and glutes and whatever have you. But when it comes to training the brain, there's not a lot of detailed discussion about it. We kind of understand, okay, well, use it or lose it. We understand, keep on learning. But there are other stuff beyond those things, right? And this is an example of that, is what I'm hearing.
And Mind Alive is an amazing company. They're an Edmonton company here. They're
Mm,
local and owned by David and Nancy Siever. And
mm,
they are excellent with the care of their products and the standing behind their products. I have never had any problem that they haven't solved. I've
mhm,
certainly had problems, but when as
mhm,
I go to their warehouse, they solve every single one of the problems I've had. And I'm on my second decade of working with them. They're an
Second decade.
amazing company. Yeah, David Seaver's been on different local TV shows from breakfast television to global
Mhm,
news, and yeah,
mhm.
he's a well known brain entrainment expert.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, is there any video on this site that you like me to play? I know we played one last time. Is there any other ones that you might want to play, or shall we just continue our chat?
I like talking with you.
Okay, wow. I like talking too. I am not a shy person, my friend.
Well, you know what? I was thinking I don't get to see people a lot during COVID. So if you're going to ask me for my preference, I can look at my own face anytime, but I like talking to you much better than looking at my own face.
Wow, perfect. Well, we'll go there. But before we go there, I want to also share with our viewers that you do have beyond your website,
I do.
you do have a thing as well, your sort of your Facebook page, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And maybe let me just pull that up very quickly here. And so on Facebook, we have this Facebook page that I just want to make our viewers aware of. So here it is, and on Facebook, and we see it now. And yeah, let me just kind of quickly share with our viewers. So on there, you have videos for our viewers. You have all kinds
Yeah, I
of,
have little
yeah.
clips, like sort of, they're sort of little like samples of the talks that I give. So, like,
Mhm,
you think, well, what's in the sleep talk or what's in the motivation talk? So, those
mhm,
are little clips of the speeches that I have, and then they're little tiny, let's say, like tappetizers. Let's say
mhm.
they're like little tiny samples of the larger workshops.
You bet, the trailer.
Yes, they're trailers, exactly.
Trailers, wonderful. So let's continue then. I have time. If you don't have a meeting right after this, my friend, we'll continue for a bit. Is that okay?
I would love that. Thank you, Dune.
All right. Well, wonderful. Let's see what other comments we have from our viewers here. We have, let's see here. Sharon chimed in again and said, yeah, she liked that. It's pharmaceutical. Okay.
It's true. It says it, so. Pharmaceuticals are different than brain entrainment. So and pharmaceuticals, right? The more you use a pharmaceutical, the
Mhm,
more you're going to need to continue using it at a higher dosage. Usually, right?
mhm,
Not all pharmaceuticals, but a lot of them you have to use it at higher dosages over time if you use it every day.
mhm,
But the brain entrainment is the opposite. It goes the other direction.
mhm.
Brain entrainment is the more you use it, the less you need to use it because your brain gets stronger and stronger, and
Yeah.
it does it on its own.
And we can associate that with muscle training. If I
Yes,
train my arm and my muscle gets bigger and bigger and stronger, well, then when I can lift stuff, I don't even have to think about it. It just,
right.
it'll do the job, the task that is necessary, right? So increasing capacity so that we don't have to use 100% of our muscle or our brain
That's right.
to do something because its capacity is higher now, right?
That's exactly right, right? And I think that's what people are doing when they're focusing at work. They get exhausted because their mind is so intensely focused on what they're doing, so that when they have a longer task to do, they get a bit exhausted. Well, this would actually help their mind to be less taxed and
Hmm.
more effortless.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful. So I'm going to kind of just ask you, are there stories or insights or concepts that you want to share with our viewers that we haven't gotten to yet? I'm going to leave it open and say,
Oh,
where would you like
okay.
to go next? Where would you like to go
Okay.
next, Deb Vernon?
Okay. Um, so one of the things I love to talk about with happiness is being outside and being in nature and
Hmm.
just the amazing experience of being, in nature and having the opportunity to be with other people. So I go with different people for walks, and it's amazing that when you walk and talk, your conversations feel differently than if you were to go out for coffee. I
Mm.
find that when I walk and talk with somebody, our conversations actually go somewhere as
You,
opposed
you
to,
you mean those people who do business on the golf course actually had something?
I
So,
think they did. I think so. I think so. I find that, the conversation seems to have a direction, and then it's memorable too. We say, "Do you remember when we went for a walk on, this park or that park?" And then we have a memory of it because it was not just a conversation, but it was
Mhm.
like an actual body memory. So I think that's probably one of the main things I've learned in the past, maybe decade is walking and talking together. I don't do that in my office, obviously, but well, that's not true. I actually have a special needs person who's an
Mhm.
adult, and the specific request there is for me to take this individual out for a walk because that's one of the things they don't get to do very often. So
Mhm.
that's something I actually do.
Yeah, yeah. Just a quick story that underscore what you said about the importance of movement and mindset and memory. In the 80s and 90s, I did a lot of water skiing, and I don't know if you remember a singer by the name of Debbie Gibson. Does
Yeah,
that ring a bell?
yeah,
So
totally.
every time I hear Debbie Gibson, I think water skiing. And every time I see a water skier, I think Debbie Gibson. Because at that time, every time I was water skiing, in the boat would be Debbie Gibson blasting away. So I have sort of merged or, you know, uh, yeah, connected those two dots.
Last time I went water skiing. So I like to water ski too, but I
Mm.
don't water ski on one ski. I water ski on two skis.
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
drop a ski, but I can't get up on one ski.
yeah,
Can you get up
yeah.
on one ski?
I can do all of those things, but then yeah. One
Well,
time, though, one time I came in, and you know how you come in right to
yeah,
shore without getting wet.
yeah.
I misjudged the shore. My ski stopped, and I did not.
Well, I learned how to wakeboard a couple of
Mm.
years ago. Do you
Oh
wakeboard
yeah.
too?
It's been a while since I've done neither of those, but I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I found wakeboarding a little more relaxing actually.
Oh
So
yeah.
then I was wakeboarding and I can hear Duran Duran playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I interrupted you. I just realized. So you were on the
That's
path
okay.
to say something about that. Do you remember what it
Well,
was?
just that while we're out there wakeboarding and Duran Duran is playing and I'm learning how to wakeboard because I didn't know, and my sons are expert at it. They know how to do all kinds of turns and flips and stuff. And Duran Duran is playing. And now when I hear Duran Duran, I think, "Oh, I remember that cool memory," and my mind goes back. So the full body experience, right? The sound, the experience of the water. And if I'm having a surgical procedure done, or if I'm having some sort of medical, like long needle or something like that, my mind goes
Mhm.
back to
Mhm.
being in the lake in the memory, and then I'm actually immersed in the memory, and I don't even
Mhm.
feel the surgical, and I'm not as aware of what's happening. So you can see I've had a
Yeah.
scar here, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I have checks done, or when I have other things,
Mhm.
whenever I have to do something that's a bit unpleasant, I go back in my mind to that clear memory of people and music and fun and the experience of the body. When you go in the lake, it's different than being in a pool because there's
Mhm.
warm spots and cold spots in the
Mhm.
water, and it's a complete body experience. So
Yeah. Yeah. In
it's
other
and
words,
resilience. It's resilience.
again, that the brain is such a powerful thing, and to be able to kind of be partially a conductor of that powerful instrument,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
uh, it's it brings you up. It elates my mind. It just brings my whole mood up thinking about it. And I
Mm.
have a great picture of you water skiing to Debbie Gibson.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I have a photo here, and I joke, and you know how we go to summer of '69. Well,
Yeah.
when I posted that photo on Facebook, I say summer of '89.
That's about right.
Yeah,
That's about
summer of
right.
'89. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So tell us more as you work with more sort of larger groups and whatnot. Are you looking to do it mostly local first before
Yeah.
you go? So
Yeah.
mostly Alberta maybe first. Yeah.
Yeah, I like working with Alberta companies. I mean, that's my heartbeat. And I do volunteer work right now with different like local chamber of commerce. And I really appreciate our local chamber of commerce. I think they do an amazing job. And so, sometimes when I'm, speaking with other companies, sometimes it's for money and it's for a fee, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes I'm
Mhm,
just speaking to a group of people. Like there's a group of people I spoke to they're cancer survivors,
mhm,
and that was primarily just to help other people, lift them up,
mhm,
and help them realize that their mind is a powerful part of their immunity, and it
mhm,
can actually boost them forward. So
mhm.
sometimes it's corporations, a lot of times it's corporations, sometimes it's organizations that are involved in charity work.
Mhm. Yeah, you bet. Yeah. Well, wonderful. So again, focus on Alberta for the next little while, and again, focus on sort of larger and larger groups. Be able to kind of reach more people. With the work that you do, be able to
That's
scale it
right.
up and
That's right.
multiply it a little bit. Yeah.
And I have a second book in my mind
Do
now.
you? Do you?
Right, right.
Ah.
So I'm thinking about the same kind of format, because
Mm-hmm.
I've written the other book and we're just in publishing. So now I'm working on the next idea, which
Mm-hmm.
is, images and words that go with, building resilience and
Mm-hmm.
cooperation in a corporation. And so
Yeah.
that's my next book.
Well, resilience and cooperations are such important things for organization these days, more than ever before. More than ever before, as complexity increases, resilience become even more necessary than ever before. And as again, complexity increases, collaboration becomes more necessary to compete and to stay afloat. Right? You just can't do it just by yourself anymore these days.
It's so true. I think when I was younger and as a younger professional, I emphasized what the individual could do, because I wanted to make sure I was doing my best. But
Hmm.
now as an older professional, I think that's one of the main things I've learned is that the importance of collaboration and innovation go together.
Hmm.
And a lot of the things that happen that we need to do in our world for our own, like, well-being as a global community, but also, for our own communities, is we need the ideas of other folks who are not similar to us. So right now, our world is showing some, I guess, some rough edges right now,
Hmm.
but we need people from different backgrounds. Those are
Hmm.
really important. People who think differently than us. We
Hmm.
need them in order to figure out the problems and how to overcome those things in our society. So, if you think about people from diverse backgrounds, that's the key to actually solving the problems
Hmm.
that are coming up in our world. And if you have a group of people and they have similar backgrounds, you probably won't get the innovation that you need.
Hmm.
So the
Yeah.
innovation comes when you have different kind of frameworks coming together.
Yeah, one thing that sort of hit me from a little bit by surprise is one time in my career, time in my journey, I learned that interdependency is actually the next level of leadership, where you don't lead based on how independent we each person are and capable of our own thing, but we lead based on, again, interdependency. There's a movement out there, as I'm sure called the "From Me to We," and there's
Yes.
two gentlemen that
Yes.
young gentlemen who are making a big impact in that area. But yeah, the whole leadership to the level of again, interdependencies is how we create big, wonderful things, right?
It really is. And if you think of the people who are great innovators in the past, you think of maybe the folks who, made different, inventions, whether it's from, Silicon Valley or other places. And it came from collaboration. Even if it was one person that made that invention, it
Hmm.
came from an innovative culture.
Hmm.
And that's what allows people to actually, have that mindset that actually, you know, gels things together. It kind of works in the back of your unconscious mind when you have other people talking to you about things, and then all
Mhm.
of a sudden your mind comes up with an idea, and you think, oh, it's my idea. Well, it may be, but it actually came from these
Mhm.
other folks that were talking about these other ideas related, and then your mind can connect the two and actually innovate. So
You bet.
it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Innovation is really about mixing. It's a mixing exercise, mixing of two things that are well understood, well known, or three things or four things into some new combination and whatnot. And if you don't have access to those three or four things, then you're not going to be able to innovate quite as effectively, right? So again, tapping to the big diversity of things and be able to create new combinations, right?
I think, Dune, you have innovated this show and all the different guests that you've seen. And I know
Hmm.
you have a history of being a public speaker as well. And now you've got this like innovative show where you have this conversations with Dune. Like this is a good example of what we're talking about.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the encouragement. So, as we sort of round the corner here, Deb, on this conversation here, what other areas or sentiment would you like to share with our viewers? Anything at all before we kind of can wrap it up here?
I think this is my encouragement to people. Think of one thing every day. One
Hmm.
thing every day that you can do that is a tiny bit of a growth.
Hmm.
A tiny bit uncomfortable, or a tiny bit of a change, or a tiny bit of a gratitude thing, or
Hmm.
a tiny bit something new that you didn't know how to do. So this weekend, I'm going to learn how to make a cabinet out of scrap wood. My
Hmm.
father-in-law is teaching me how to make a cabinet. So I don't know how
Nice.
that has to do with psychology, but it definitely is going to help my mind to learn new things. Anything you new you can learn. So just
Hmm.
one thing every day that you can do that will bring something positive into your life or the life of someone else. So Charles Dickens said, "No one is useless in this world who lightens the burden of it for another." And I like that little quote that he has.
Hmm.
But I think if you do one thing every day, even if
Hmm.
it's a small thing,
Hmm.
it's been a great day. It's been a great day. So, like I think yesterday I gave away. I bought a newspaper that was kind of an interesting newspaper, and after I finished reading it, I gave it to my neighbor to read because my neighbor
Hmm.
enjoys reading it too. So
Hmm.
it's a small thing, but there you go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing again the 8 tips that you have for us, which some of which we kind of knew about, but of course, again, a reminder and an expansion of your view on those and how important they are, and sharing of your book that has now been released, and how you're working on your another book that is similar in format there, and also just your general kind of encouragement to us to again. Nurture our brain, nurture our mind, nurture our um, I guess, nurture ourselves so that we can help serve others, right?
Yeah. Yeah, those top three things, say something kind and grateful, get out and move, and and show gratitude.
There you go. Now, on the note of three, I'm going to ask you one more thing. Tell us 3 words that you would like our viewers to remember as they think about this particular conversation here. 3 words, they can be completely separate. They can be, what are the 3 words that you want people to think about when they think about this conversation?
Move, thanks, and yes. If
Yes.
somebody asks you, "Hey, can you do this for me?" The answer is yes. "Hey, would
Hmm.
you like to try this with me?" Yes.
Hmm.
Move, just move. Just do something, anything, but move.
Hmm.
Move, thanks, and yes.
Wonderful. Well, on that note, let's move towards our wrapping up of this. And again, I really appreciate you spending the time with us here. And for our viewers right now who are still online, there's still 7 viewers hanging on here before we close. And we sort of ran over a little bit, but that's okay. That's fine. And then many viewers would watch afterwards. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing this with us. And thank you to our viewers who have been watching and commenting and supporting this conversation. And, take good care of yourself, folks, and take good care of one another. And again, Deb, thank you so much.
Thanks, June. Thanks for this opportunity. I enjoy talking to you.
I did as well. everybody. This has been a conversation with Deb Vernon, and we bid you a wonderful afternoon or evening, wherever you are, or morning in some cases. Have a great rest of your day, folks. Bye.
Bye.